here. Uh-oh, Richard. That was a nice one. Okay.
Will Smith was once Hollywood's golden boy, the Fresh Prince turned box office king. But today, his empire of fame and respect is crumbling before our eyes. For decades, Will Smith was untouchable. He was the Fresh Prince, the box office king, the rapper turned actor who could do no wrong. Every movie he touched was a hit, every song was a cultural moment, and every interview was filled with charisma. He was the man who seemed to have it all: fame, fortune, and a picture-perfect family. But in just a few short years, Will Smith has gone from Hollywood royalty to Hollywood cautionary tale. His fall from grace wasn't a sudden collapse. It was a slow burn of scandals, humiliations, and self-inflicted wounds, until one explosive moment finally pushed him over the edge. And that moment was the slap. The 2022 Oscars should have been the crowning achievement of Will Smith's career. He was about to win his first ever Academy Award for King Richard, a role that cemented his reputation as one of the greatest actors of his generation. But instead, that night became the moment that destroyed everything. In front of millions watching around the world, Will Smith walked on stage and slapped comedian Chris Rock across the face after a joke about Jada Pinkett Smith.
That was a nice one. Okay. I'm out here. Uh-oh, Richard. Oh, wow. Wow. Will Smith just smacked the shit out of me.
The crowd went silent, the internet went into meltdown, and Will Smith's career went up in flames. Sure, he went on to win the Oscar just minutes later, but nobody remembers the speech. They only remember the slap. It wasn't just about violence, it was about image. Will Smith, the man who spent decades carefully building a brand as a positive role model, a family man, a safe and bankable star, completely shattered that image in a matter of seconds. And the damage was immediate. He was banned from the Academy for 10 years. Studios pulled projects off the table. His carefully polished reputation was gone. Later, Will Smith made an apology video for his slap.
It's all fuzzy. I've reached out to Chris, and the message that came back is that he's not ready to talk, and when he is, he will reach out. So I will say to you, Chris, I apologize to you. My behavior was unacceptable, and I'm here whenever you're ready to talk.
Chris Rock also made the video about his reaction to Will Smith's apology.
And, you know, if you hang on, I promise we'll be able to be friends again.
I don't care. I don't care. I thought I was gonna die. It was a weird. I always say, like, I have a life like Forrest Gump. Like, I'm always where the action is. We tried to hang out afterwards, but it's like, man. And I remember I was at his apartment and he showed me his apartment, and I leave and I see him out the window and I was like, that's probably the last time I'm gonna see him.
But the slap was just the spark. The real fire had been burning for years. For decades, Will Smith was Hollywood's golden boy, a guaranteed box office hit and a man the industry trusted to carry billion-dollar franchises. But recently, his career has been littered with failures that expose just how fragile his star power had become. Movies like After Earth and Gemini Man were marketed as major events, but turned out to be massive disappointments, leaving critics and audiences questioning whether Will still had the magic that once made him a global superstar. But it wasn't just the box office numbers that dragged him down. It was Hollywood itself. After the infamous slap, studios began distancing themselves. Projects were canceled, release dates were pushed back, and directors who once praised him suddenly went silent. In an industry built on relationships, Will found himself isolated, as though the entire system had decided he was no longer worth the risk. Will had spent decades crafting a reputation as the family man, the role model, the embodiment of charisma and positivity. Yet today, that carefully built image lies in ruins. But scandals in his personal life weren't the only problem. Will Smith's professional career was already falling apart before the slap. After dominating the 1990s and early 2000s with films like Men in Black, Independence Day, and I Am Legend, Will Smith's box office power began to decline. Movies like After Earth were disasters. Collateral Beauty flopped. Even Suicide Squad, despite making money, left audiences unimpressed with his role. By the time King Richard came around, Will Smith desperately needed a comeback. And for a moment, it looked like he had it. Winning the Oscar should have been his redemption story. Instead, the slap destroyed it in real time. And Hollywood moved on quickly. Projects like Bright 2 were shelved. His big-budget film Emancipation underperformed badly. Streaming audiences didn't care, and critics weren't impressed. The truth was undeniable. Will Smith was no longer a guaranteed box office star. As if his acting career falling apart wasn't enough, Will Smith tried something else, returning to music. But instead of a triumphant comeback, it turned into another disaster. Earlier this year, Smith tried to revive his rap career, but the reaction was brutal. Fans called the music outdated, forced, and desperate. Even worse, at one of his shows, he was accused of faking audience energy by using AI to generate crowd reactions.
He is just shamelessly using an AI crowd to promote his tour, and how, like, emotional it's been. Like, this is why I do it, for this. And then it's like that lady that has like 45 different hands while everyone around her is getting fucking morphed into some giant amalgamation of flesh and bone.
It was humiliating. Instead of proving he could reinvent himself, it only reinforced the narrative that Will Smith was out of touch. A man desperately clinging to his old fame in a world that had moved on. So how did we get here? How did Will Smith go from one of the most universally loved stars in Hollywood to someone who seems to have lost it all? The answer is simple. He couldn't adapt. When stars like Robert Downey Jr. and Keanu Reeves faced career-ending scandals, they reinvented themselves. They found redemption arcs. They let their work speak louder than their controversies. But Will Smith, instead of rebuilding quietly, he doubled down. The slap, the public marriage drama, the desperate comeback attempts, it all added fuel to the fire. And instead of being remembered as the Fresh Prince, or the action star who dominated Hollywood for 2 decades, Will Smith is now remembered as the man who slapped Chris Rock, lost control of his image, and never recovered. At one point, Will Smith was on track to be one of the greatest Hollywood legends of all time. He had the talent, the charisma, and the influence to stand alongside names like Denzel Washington, Tom Hanks, and Morgan Freeman. But today, his legacy is shattered. The respect is gone. The career is hanging by a thread. The man who once seemed untouchable has lost everything. The tragedy of Will Smith's downfall isn't just about one slap or one scandal. It's about a man who had the world in his hands and let it all slip away. Because in Hollywood, you're only as good as your last act. And for Will Smith, that act has been nothing but disgrace.